येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So welcome back to our Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Nectar of Devotion Bhakti Shastri study class. So today we are beginning with the second wave of the Eastern Division, which is called as Sadhana Bhakti. We have finished the first wave quite elaborately. We have discussed the preface, and then we have discussed the Mangala Charan verses of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, which is the introduction to Srila Prabhupada's Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu summary study. And then we saw the definition of pure devotional service and the references, scriptural references for that, and the division of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Kleshagni, Shubhadha, Moksha Lagutakrit, Sudurlabha, Sandranand Visheshatma, Shri Krishna Akarshani. And after discussing Shri Krishna Akarshani, we are all attracted how even we can take up to devotional service. So what is the qualification? That is Swalpapi Ruchi. If you have little taste for bhakti scriptures, and not just by yukti na tu kevala, but if you have taste as well as yukti, then it is an added advantage. So that's how we finished the first wave of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So today we will begin with the second wave, which is quite elaborate and most important for us sadhakas. The second wave of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Sorry. So again, when we study the second wave of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, we will see the insights into Srila Prabhupada's summary study Nectar of Devotion, as well as the commentaries of Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So Eastern Division has these laharis. Laharis are waves, and the first wave is Samanya Bhakti, which we have discussed. Now the second wave is Sadhana Bhakti, and within Sadhana is included Vaidhi and Raganuga. Now this is what we had covered the main themes in the first wave: preface, Vastu Nirdesh, and definition of Akhil Rasamrit Murthy, Mangalacharan verses, the definition of pure devotional service, the references, and the 6 characteristics and the qualifications for bhakti. Now, this is just an overview of what we will be studying in the Eastern Division second wave. First, we will be in the first part, we will be studying the definition of sadhana bhakti, definition of Vaidhi Bhakti, the results of Vaidhi Bhakti. Now, qualifications to practice Vaidhi Bhakti. Who are the adhikaris? So there is the Uttam Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Kanishta Adhikari. Then there are the mixed devotees, Mishra Bhaktas, who can also take up to Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Then the rejection of Bhukti and Mukti, the highest qualification, devotee of Govinda. What is the difference between Govinda and Vishnu? And rejection of Varna and Ashram as a qualification for Bhakti. Then the definition of Anga of Bhakti. There are 64 limbs of devotional service in Sadhana Bhakti. So what is an Anga? Then the Angas of Bhakti are listed. The 64 Angas with scriptural references, which is a quite elaborate discussion in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And this is the major portion you can see in the second wave. And what is rejected as Angas of Uttama Bhakti? So what are the Angas of Bhakti and what are rejected? Now then, after the rejection of Angas of Bhakti, then there is practicing one Anga, Ek Anga, or practicing many Angas, Bahu Anga, Ek Anga or Anek Anga. So we can practice some limbs of devotional service like Shravanam or Kirtanam, or we can practice many. And what is the recommendation Rupa Goswami gives? The second part of the discussion will be Raganuga Bhakti. And in this, we will go into the definition of what is Raganuga Bhakti. And in that context, we will define what is Ragatmika Bhakti. Now, there are two types of Ragatmika Bhakti, that is Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti and Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. So, after defining these two types of Ragatmika Bhakti, then we will come to what is the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. Just like there is qualification to practice Vaidhi Bhakti, there is qualification to practice Raganuga Bhakti. And what are the Angas of Raganuga Bhakti? They will remain the same as Vaidhi, but there are two different aspects. There is the internal and the external, Bhaya and Antaranga. So the internal service is following the eternal associates, the Ragatmika Bhaktas, and the external service is following the Acharyas like the 6 Goswamis. So that is a short discussion of Angas of Bhakti. Then there are types of Raganuga Bhakti. So in that types of Raganuga Bhakti, there is Kamanuga and Sambandhanuga. And within Kamanuga, there are two types, Sambhogichha Mai and Tad Tad Bhavichhatmika. So this is all what we will be studying in the Eastern Division second wave, that is Sadhana Bhakti. Now again, coming to Srila Prabhupada's summary study, here you can see from chapter 2 to practically chapter 16 is the second wave. Of Eastern Division. And practically from 2 till chapter 14 is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Only chapters 15 and 16 is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti mentioned. This you can note down in your, if you have your textbooks, you can note down. Chapter 15 and 16 is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. I should have mentioned it. I don't know, I did not mention it. I will add the separate brackets which deal with Vaidhi Sadhana and Raganuga Sadhana. Then chapters 17 and 18 is the third wave, that is Bhava Bhakti. and 19 is fourth wave Prema Bhakti. So that's how right from say introduction to chapters 19 is the Eastern Division. Prefaces are especially written by Srila Prabhupada. So that's how we will now begin the second wave. In fact, if you finish the second wave, it's like major portion of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is over. Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, we just studied because they're very lofty for us. But for us, Sadhana Bhakti study is very, very important because that's what we are practicing now. Now, carefully go through these questions and raise your hands who would like to answer. We are going to first define sadhana bhakti. Before that, Rupa Goswami has a discussion. He has a verse and he discusses. So that's why in that context, we are asking this question. Which one of these statements is right? Are there three types of bhakti? Sadhana, bhava and prema? Or are there three stages of bhakti? Sadhana, bhava and prema. Are there three types or three stages? Who would like to answer can raise their hands. Only one hand is raised. Two devotees have answered in the chat box. Okay, both answers are to me. Oh, three answers are there. So let us give chance to Nitya Sevini Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, these three are three stages of bhakti.
Oh, everyone has typed the answer correctly. I'm surprised. All are become advanced students of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay, now you have to answer why you say it is three stages. Everyone has answered three stages, but for your kind information, I would say everyone is wrong. That was my mistake. I thought, it was the right answer, but everyone is wrong about it. There are no three stages bhakti. There are three types of bhakti. Rupa Goswami says there are three types of bhakti and not three stages. Now, regarding this, what I mentioned, anyone can say something about it? Would like to raise their hand? Okay, I'll go through the slide. It cannot be three stages because there are examples of Kripa Siddhas who skip one or more of these stages. So if you see, there are three stages of bhakti that you have to go through: sadhana stage, then bhava, and then prema. It cannot be true. Why? Because there can be some examples where somebody might not do sadhana and directly attain bhava. Or somebody might not do sadhana and attain bhava also directly, somebody might attain prema. Yes, there are examples of this. They are called as Kripa Siddhas. So especially when we come to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Eastern Division, third wave, that is Bhava Bhakti, or I think somewhere there, it is mentioned that how a devotee of Jagannath, she danced for Jagannath's pleasure whole night. And just by performing this devotional activity for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath, she attained bhava for Lord Jagannath. So practically without any practice of sadhana bhakti, she directly attained bhava. So she did not go through these stages of sadhana bhakti and especially Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and then Raganuga sadhana bhakti and then attain bhava bhakti. No, directly in one night, just by dancing for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath, she attained bhava bhakti. So that's why there are some examples who can skip one or more stages. So in this case of this lady, she skipped the entire sadhana bhakti. Now, do you know any other examples where one or two stages were skipped and attained perfection? At least now, I think devotees might be able to answer. Any examples you know from the Shastras? Any examples? Any examples do you know in the Shastra? Yes, there is. Ajamil. Ajamil won't fit here in this category because even though he called out the name of Narayan, which was not indicating his son, because the holy name is potent, Vishnudut came, he attained Sambandh Gyan and then practiced for many years in Haridwar and then attained perfection. Madan Mohan Chaitanya has raised his hand. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu Haribol, this Chaitanya Charitamrita, the puppy dog was given boon, so he directly achieved bhava and prema.
Yeah, he went back to the spiritual world directly, Vaikuntha. He chanted the name of Lord Hari Hari. Yes,
Yeah.
that dog.
Yes.
There are many examples in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Antilila pastimes, where he was deeply absorbed, once he slipped away from Gambhira and went in the ocean and jumped. And there he came under the fisherman's net. And somehow the fisherman thought he had caught a huge fish and he saw that it was a human body. Because he had touched the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in ecstasy. He attained prema and he was chanting the name of Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So without going through any of the stages of sadhana, bhava, he had directly attained prema. And especially in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's South India tour, just by having the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whoever had darshan, they did not go through these stages of sadhana, bhava. Directly they attained prema. And what to speak, those who saw these people, they also, just by that darshan of these people who had attained prema, they also attained prema. So you can imagine the potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what kind of siddhi. He also gave that kripa siddha to these devotees who had his darshan, and those devotees were also able to give. So there are some kripa siddhas who can skip these stages. So that's why there cannot be 3 stages. But in general, it is true that devotees follow these 3 stages in order. During Mahaprabhu's time, or when Lord Krishna himself descends and gives darshan, maybe some can skip these stages. But now, when Mahaprabhu's Prakat Leela is over and Aprakat Leela has started, now we have to go through these stages, especially sadhana bhakti. Within sadhana, we'll have to go through Vaidhi sadhana, then Raganuga, then we can attain bhava and then prema. We have to go through these stages. But in general, it is true that devotees have to go through these stages. Okay, but why 3 types? Shouldn't there be only 2 types? Now it's clear that we have to have these 3 types of bhakti, not 3 stages, because some can skip one stage. So there are 3 types of bhakti: sadhana and bhava and prema. But why 3 types? Why not 2 types? Sadhana, practice, and sadhya, perfected. Now, Rup Goswami in the Eastern Division 1, second wave. This is Sadhana Bhakti, Dvitiya Lahari. The first verse, he says, Sa Bhakti Sadhanam Bhava Prema Chet Tridodita There are three types, not three stages, he says, three types. Cheti Tridodita of bhakti, sa bhakti, sadhana, bhava, and prema. Sadhanam, bhava, prema. So Rup Goswami is saying three types. Now Jeev Goswami gives an explanation why three types. And we will go through this explanation. It is little philosophical and technical. And if you have any questions after we finish the discussion of the slides, kindly raise your hands and we will take up. Till then, please hear attentively. Let us hear what Jeev Goswami has to say in his commentary. Now, Jeev Goswami, that Uttama Bhakti is now considered in three divisions for clear understanding, though actually it should be understood that there are only two divisions, sadhana and sadhya, practice and perfected. But we are considering in three. Why not two? And why not two and three? He is going to explain. Note, bhava cannot be considered within sadhana, since it contains a direct realization of the Lord, which is the goal of sadhana. So the goal of sadhana bhakti is to attain bhava bhakti, and bhava bhakti again cannot be classified as within sadhana bhakti, because sadhana bhakti's goal is bhava bhakti first. Secondly, bhava bhakti has direct realization of the Lord, which is lacking in sadhana bhakti. Thus, it should be classed as sadhya bhakti. What should be classed as sadhya bhakti? Bhava bhakti should be classed as sadhya bhakti. Bhava is also sadhya. Thus, there are only two broad classifications, sadhana and sadhya. Broad are two, sadhana and sadhya. However, bhava should be distinguished from prema, sneha, and other more intense forms of bhakti, because there still exist impurities in bhava and rasa does not fully manifest in bhava. Although bhava bhakti is considered within sadhya, now within sadhya there is bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. But still there is a distinction between bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. And that distinction is brought out in this point. What is that? That in bhava bhakti there is still impurities. And rasa is fully not manifested in bhava. Therefore, bhava is placed in a separate category from prema, even though they may both be considered sadhya. So both bhava and prema are considered sadhya bhakti, but still there is a separate categorization of bhava bhakti and prema bhakti, because there is difference between bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. And here these 2 points, impurities in bhava and rasa is not fully manifested. That are the 2 points which are brought out. Now, carefully observe this chart. There is this Uttama Bhakti, which we have discussed the definition. And there are 2 types, sadhana and sadhya, practice and perfected stage. Now within sadhana, there is Vaidhi sadhana and Raganaga sadhana bhakti. Okay, that still comes in type 1. But sadhya, within sadhya, we have made this type 2, bhava bhakti. Bhava cannot be classed within sadhana, because the goal of sadhana bhakti is to produce bhava bhakti. First reason. And bhava cannot be classed along with prema, because there is some difference. In bhava, there are impurities and rasa is not fully manifested. So that is why bhava is a separate category, bhava bhakti. It's a second type. And prema bhakti is type 3. Now within prema, there are higher stages within prema bhakti. There is raga, anuraga, pranaya, sneha, mana, bhava, mahabhava, like that. Higher stages are there. And they come in prema bhakti itself. Within prema bhakti, these are divisions. That is the 9th stage. Like we know, Shraddha is first, sadhu sangha, bhajan kriya, anarth nivritti, nishta, ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. 9th. Within 9, there are higher stages, and these are those stages. I'm just giving a hint. Now, even a sadhaka who attains perfection and attains prema bhakti, he attains prema bhakti, but these higher stages like prema, pranaya, sneha, raga cannot be handled. These spiritual emotions or ecstasy cannot be handled by embodied beings. So only in perfected, in spiritual bodies, these higher emotions, higher types of prema bhakti manifest. That is why the sadhakas who attain perfection, sadhya, they are given chance to take birth in Golok. And in Golok, not in, sorry, in Golok, in Baum Vrindavan, according to the rasa, they take birth as gopis or gopas or elderly gopas or elderly gopis. In either of the rasas, that is Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya, and these higher emotions, these higher types of prema bhakti is based on the rasa in which they develop these higher things. So that is why in prema also there are these higher divisions, but of course, Rupa Goswami also doesn't discuss about this much in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says, the second type, Sadhya Bhakti, called Har the Roop, is that bhakti in which the influence of the heart, the emotions of the Atma become prominent. The word Hridaya means heart and soul. It is used to it is used instead of Atma to indicate the emotional aspect of the soul. So these are not emotions of the mind. We become emotional because of our bodily problems. Sometimes we are inflicted with misery and we can't handle it and we start crying. So these emotions are on the material platform, but the spiritual emotions in relationship to Krishna, the lamentation which is in separation from Krishna, these are the emotions of the soul. So this Sadhya Bhakti is also called as Har the Roop, where the emotions of the soul manifest fully. The word Bhakti is used to describe this type also. So we say Bhakti, but it is Prema Bhakti. It is not ordinary Bhakti. Sometimes we saw, in our discussion in this first wave that Hari Bhakti Sudurlabha. So there Hari Bhakti Sudurlabha is mentioned, but there Hari Bhakti means what? Anyone remembers? Hari Bhakti there, Hari Bhakti means what there? Anyone remembers? Can answer? What does Hari Bhakti mean there in that verse? Yes, Bhava Bhakti. And Muktim Dadati Karhechit Smana Bhakti Yogam. Another verse we saw, how Bhakti is Sudurlabha. So there, Bhakti Yogam, Bhakti word is used. So there, what does Bhakti mean? In that verse, from the Srimad Bhagavatam we had seen. Anyone remembers? Can raise their hand or answer in the chat box. What does it mean there, Bhakti? Anyone has any idea? It is Prema Bhakti there. So for this kind of Bhakti also, the term Bhakti only is used. The word Bhakti is only used to describe this type also. This terminology is used in Bhagavatam. So this kind of terminology has been used in Bhagavatam. What is that? Bhaktya sanjayate taya bhaktya bibhritya utpulakam tanum. They possess bodies. Tanum. Tanum means body. Agitated by ecstasy. Utpulakam means there is the emotions, ecstasy they are manifesting in the heart, caused by sadhya bhakti. So bhaktya sanjayate bhaktya. So this word bhaktya refers to sadhya bhakti, produced from sadhana bhakti. So this first word bhaktya is sadhana bhakti produces bhava bhakti, and within that bhava bhakti there is what? ecstasy. They possess bodies agitated by ecstasy. Sadhya Roop or Hardha Roop Bhakti has 5 types: Bhava, Prema, Pranaya, Sneha, Raga. So this I had mentioned in the chart, if you remember. So these Sneha, Raga in the 3rd type. Now, in Ujjvala Neelamani, 3 more types are mentioned: Mana, Anuraga and Mahabhav. Thus, there are 8 types of Sadhya Bhakti. Thus, the 2 types mentioned, namely Bhava and Prema, are only representative of 8 types. So this is a little more in detail what Rupa Goswami is mentioning, Jiva Goswami. So there are Prema Bhakti, which is of the type Pranaya. Pranaya is also Prema Bhakti. Sneha is also Prema Bhakti. Raga is also Prema Bhakti. So there are different types of Sadhya Bhakti. That is what the point he is trying to make. The other types, we discuss only type 1 Sadhana Bhakti, type 2 Bhava Bhakti, type 3 Prema. But we don't go into those other types. Why? He says the other types are not mentioned in this categorization of Bhakti into 3 types because at the end of the 4th wave of the Eastern division, dealing with Prema Bhakti, it will be said. So when we study the 4th wave, which is dealing with Prema Bhakti, Rupa Goswami makes a point. Premna eva vilasatvat vairalam sadakeshwapi atra snehadayo bheda vivichya na hi samsita. There is rarity of prema. Premna eva vairalyam. Prema is very, very rare, rarely attained among those who have practiced sadhana bhakti. Sadakeshu api. Why? Because of its playful nature. Vilas Sattvat. Thus, Sneha and the other types of Sadhya Bhakti. Atra Sneha Adyo Bheda. So this different Bhedas in Pranaya, Mana, Sneha, Raga, Anuraga, Mahabhava, all these have not been analyzed or discussed at this point. Vivichya na hi samsita. So Rupa Goswami himself just speaks about Prema Bhakti and in the 4th wave, and he doesn't discuss these other types of Prema Bhakti like Mana, Anuraga, Pranaya, Mahabhava, because it is very, very rare to attain among those who have practiced sadhana bhakti. Only this is found in the eternal associates of devotees who are in Krishna Leela and the sadhakas who have perfected their life and they are entered into Vraj Leela in Bhaum Vrindavan. They develop these higher types of bhaktis. Their fine tuning happens in their training happens there. So the Nitya Siddhas who are participating in Krishna Leela, they further train these sadhaka siddhas. Like we saw the examples of how the Dandakaranya rishis, they became gopis in Krishna Leela, and even the Rishichari gopis, the personified Vedas. So these sadhakas, they get further training and they develop these higher levels of prema based on their level of rasa. So this is regarding Jiva Goswami's commentary. Now Vishwanath Chakra Thakur will make it still more clear, and then if you have questions, please ask. Let there be 2 types of bhakti, sadhana and sadhya. Bhava should be included in sadhya bhakti. Why is it necessary to have 3 types? The answer is as follows. Later it will be said, Utpanna rataya samyan nairvigyam anupagata Krishna sakshat krito yoga sadhaka parikirtita. Those are called practitioners, sadhaka parikirtita, who have developed rati for Krishna. Utpanna rataya. Rataya means they have developed rati. Rati is bhava also. And are qualified to see Krishna directly. Krishna sakshat krito yoga. So you can imagine at the level of bhava bhakti, Krishna can sakshat give darshan, as he gave darshan to Narad Muni in his previous life as a son of a maid servant. He directly had darshan of Krishna in his heart, and then he heard Krishna's voice also. So that is the stage of bhava bhakti where you're qualified to have darshan of Krishna. But another important point is, but who have not completely extinguished the anarthas. Samyak nairvigna anupagata. So still the anarthas are there. And what anarthas is Rupa Goswami speaking in this Bhakta Rasamrit Sindhu? Anyone knows? Can raise their hands. Which anartha is he speaking here? Anyone has any idea? Material desires, no, absolutely no. Bhava Bhakti, practically all the material desires are extinguished. From Nishtha onwards, material desires are practically extinguished with higher stages of Ruchi, Asakti, and Bhava stage, no material desires practically. Which anarthas are he speaking? Anyone has any idea? Anarthas because of aparad. And that too, it remains in very, very small traces, fine traces. I will show the graph later on to you in the form of a chart. Very fine traces of aparad will be there, but they will not affect him also. In fact, bhava, because there is extreme attraction to the Lord, deep attraction. It's like you're, some say 95%, some say 99% you're pure almost. So that is, you have deep attraction towards Krishna, but there are still fine traces. That's it. So that is why not completely extinguished anarthas. In spite of the fact that bhava or rati has appeared, utpanna rata, the obstacles have not completely dissipated. So the aparad, anarthas because of aparad are still not completely dissipated. That's why bhava is categorized as a separate category. Such persons are therefore classed as sadhakas, not having extinguished all obstacles. Samyan nairvigyam anupagata. Means there still remains a trace of serious aparad because the effects of aparad are very strong and long lasting. In this condition, with even a trace of aparad that generates suffering, sadhya bhakti cannot appear. The qualities of siddha bhakti who has sadhya bhakti are described as follows in the same section. Now he will describe prema bhakti. Avigyata kila klesha sada krishnashrita kriya siddhasu santata prema sauka swada parayana. Those who experience no suffering at all, avigyata akhila klesha. Whereas in bhava bhakti, there is what? Nairvigyam anupagata. There is some klesha because of the aparadhas, because of serious aparadhas. But in prema bhakti, there is no suffering at all. Who performs all actions while taking shelter of Krishna. Sada Krishna ashrita kriya. Who always tastes the happiness of continuous prema. Santata prema sauk aswada parayana. We know in prema bhakti, there are two characteristics which appear of pure devotional service. Which are the two characteristics which appear in prema bhakti? We saw quite elaborately, we discussed which are the two characteristics. Anyone knows, can raise their hand. It is Sandranand Visheshatma. So is experiencing intense condensed bliss. Santata Prem Sauk Asvadana Parayana are known as the perfected devotees. Siddhya Su. So these are the Premi Bhaktas. These are the Premi Bhaktas. So who have attained Prema Bhakti. So you can see the definition of Prema Bhakti is here very clearly defined in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and that of Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti, you have attained Rati, you have still not destroyed all obstacles. There is some distress, slight 1% or 0.05% or whatever it is. You are qualified to have darshan of Krishna, still you are called as a sadhaka. But in Prema Bhakti, there is all experience of suffering. Akhila Klesh, it is fully destroyed because aparadha is also destroyed there. In Prema Bhakti, even the slight traces of aparadha are fully destroyed. And you completely take shelter of Krishna, you're continuously experiencing bliss, prema, saukasvadana, parayana. And they are Siddha devotees. Therefore, Bhava Bhakti cannot be included in Sadhya Bhakti. However, by no means it can be included in Sadhana Bhakti, because in this section, which defines Sadhana Bhakti, the goal of Sadhana Bhakti is described as Bhava Bhakti. So Sadhana Bhakti will be defined as with the goal to attain Bhava Bhakti. So how you can classify Bhava Bhakti within Sadhana Bhakti? Therefore, it cannot be included in Sadhana Bhakti, since the goal of Bhava Bhakti is not to produce Bhava. Thus, it should be considered proper to classify Bhakti into 3 types and not 2. So this was the discussion prior to giving the definition of sadhana bhakti, because in the definition of sadhana we will see that we perform sadhana bhakti to attain bhava will be mentioned. So that's why Rupa Goswami has first only defining this and having understanding that there are 3 types of bhakti. Now any questions or clarifications regarding this first verse we discussed, and these 3 types of bhakti and not 3 stages? I hope things were clear. Anyone has any clarifications or any questions? Yes, Vaishali Mataji has a question. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandvat Prana. Prabhu, we see this example of Bharat Maharaj. He was on the Bhava stage, right? That is what we hear. And then from Bhava stage, because of attachment, so there was no aparad there, right?
What is the question?
So since from Bhava stage, you said it is almost like he has almost been such a pure devotee, but because for the attachment to deer, he has got that another again. So the one of the reasons what you mentioned for this from Bhava is to that aparadha.
There are traces of aparadha still not destroyed. So 2 things you will have to understand first. Yes, now many devotees think, especially when they study the 6th canto, I think it is in the 5th canto, about Maharaj Bharat. Now it is mentioned that Maharaj Bharat had attained the stage of Bhava, and having attained that lofty stage of Bhava, still he fell down. So if you want to draw your own lessons, you will say that even at Bhava stage, one can fall down, or one can be trapped in Maya. Or you see, Bhagavatam describes how even if one goes to Bhava stage, he will fall down. So that's not the lesson what the Bhagavatam is teaching us. In fact, if you see how the Acharyas, from their lens, if you see how they see these pastimes, in fact, Maharaj Bharat had attained Bhava, and it was an accident that he became attached to a deer, and thinking in that consciousness, he got a deer's body. But in the deer's body, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions in his commentaries, especially in the prayers to the Devtas offer prayers in the 10th canto, 2nd chapter. There he mentions that for devotees, there is no question of fall down. For the Gyanis, even if they attain the higher stages, even to the point of liberation, patanti other. But for devotees, there is no question of fall down. And there he mentions that Maharaj Bharat, in the deer's body, his devotion and attraction multiplied 1,000 times more. And in the body of Jad Bharat, he developed more attraction and his bhakti intensified 1,000 times more. So Krishna, being the well-wisher of his devotees, will never cause any inauspiciousness to his devotees. So in the case of Maharaj Bharat, from an external point, you see that from Bhava stage, he came down to a deer's body and then he had to take 3 births. So that we see, but how the Acharyas see, we have to see that. Also, we should know that ultimately Bhagavatam is giving lessons and extreme examples are given. Very extreme examples are given. There is extreme example of devotion in the form of Prahlad Maharaj, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, and there is an extreme example of an Asura like Hiranyakashipu, who was Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam. So these are given for us to learn lessons. So, but definitely this is how the Acharyas see this whole pastime. This is one thing to be noted. Secondly, Prabhupada is very clear, Acharyas are very clear that once one reaches the stage of bhava, there is no question of fall down because it's a very lofty stage. So that we'll have to accept what the Acharya is saying, Srila Prabhupada is saying. But how one should be very careful, even at very advanced stages. What to speak of bhava stage, where still the traces of aparadha are there, even when one is at the prema stage and attained purity of heart and he has complete attraction for Krishna, he has attained the lotus feet of Krishna, even if such a devotee who is at prema bhakti level stage, if he commits offense intentionally, Vaishnava aparadh, then he can come down from prema stage. But rarely those devotees in prema stage will never commit offense because their heart is pure. So this is how we'll have to see these pastimes and understand it. So what lessons we need to draw, we'll have to see from the Acharya's angles. What the Acharyas give in their commentary and how we should see these pastimes, we have to see from that angle. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Yes, Mataji. This is Deepadatri Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, you were mentioning that in the prema stage and thing, you will in the bhava stage, if there are any traces of any that is anarthas, you will not proceed. But in the first canto, when we read like Sri Narada, he saw Krishna, but then again he was not able to see. Then how can we take that, Prabhu? He has to in the next life only he will be able to see the Lord.
Yes, very interesting question. And again, this Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur answers that Narad Muni, because of the mercy of the Bhaktivedantas, he went through all these stages and had attained bhava stage in his previous life again. And he had a glimpse of Krishna in his heart. He had the darshan, he experienced the Ashtasattvic vikars, the transformations in the body. And suddenly the Lord disappeared from the heart. And being a child, he became restless. And again, he tried to, follow the method of meditation, what the Bhaktivedantas are taught. And with great intensity and sincerity, he tried, but he still could not see the Lord in the heart. He became very morose. The Lord, seeing this, observing, he spoke. He was not seen, but his voice was only heard. That in this life you will not be able to see me. So this actually Lord Krishna did like this, so to intensify the devotion of Narad Muni as a son of a maid servant. And it is mentioned by Vishwanath Thakur that once the Lord gives darshan, that darshan is sufficient for us to develop such deep hankering to attain the Lord that itself will take us to perfection. So in order to develop deeper attraction for Krishna did that, and he did not give him darshan in that life. And there is a mention by Jiva Goswami in the commentaries that Narad Muni had little bit become attached to the mode of goodness, being in the forest. So that slight trace of attachment which was there, by giving this darshan and to develop further rati and attraction to the Lord did this. So this is how we'll have to see that pastime. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. But you said again mode of goodness attachment. So what sort of attachment is there? Anything, Prabhu, like
What sort of attachment in the mode of goodness?
yes. Prabhu.
Yes. Now you can see Srila Prabhupada was in a transcendental abode like Vrindavan, and Vrindavan is the Chintamani Dham. It is not even in the mode of goodness, it is transcendental. And Srila Prabhupada is in a transcendental state of consciousness. But yet he went to New York. Now New York is not in the mode of goodness, especially the place where Prabhupada was staying with the hippies. So he was neither attached to the mode of ignorance nor to the mode of goodness. Sometimes we are attached, to be away from the city and be in the countryside so that we can practice our spiritual life, and that might become an attachment for us. But our attachment should be primarily to Krishna. And for Krishna, those who are in transcendental consciousness, now I'm speaking, for them, whether it is deep ignorance or it is goodness, they are neither attached to this. These are the symptoms of those who are transcended the three modes. In the 14th chapter of the Gita, Arjuna will ask this question, Kairlingan Strin Gunan Atito Bhavati Arjuna. What are the symptoms of one who has transcended? So they are not, when something which is in the mode of goodness comes near him, oh, I like this, let it come. When something, if it is very, very tamasic, there is dislike. So again, this like and dislike for goodness or ignorance is within the material realm. But those who have transcended, they are neither having liking for what is in the mode of goodness nor dislike, because they have transcended the three modes. So like that, even if we have these slight races, Krishna reciprocates with his devotees and makes us free from these kind of attachments also. So that is what happened in Narad Muni's life, in his previous life as a son of maid servant. That is what clarification Jiva Goswami gives in his commentary. There is another question by Surya Kunda Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I would like to know that you have told that there is a 3 steps of bhakti.
3 types of bhakti.
Yeah, 3 types of bhakti. So you have told that some devotees, they skip and come to the Bhava and Prema bhakti. So is it that they have in previous life, where they're in this sadhana bhakti, and they might be no in previous life?
We don't know for each of the cases about their previous lives. If it is mentioned in the scriptures, then we can take those references. But when we don't know about it, we can't speak about it. Like take the example of the fisherman, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is not mentioned that the fisherman had already attained love for the Lord, and he came in touch. And no, the fisherman just accident, out of his good fortune, he came in touch. He caught Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that net, and just coming in contact, he attained Prema Bhakti. Similar is the case of what to speak of the people in South India, even the tigers and deers and elephants in Jharkhand forest. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going towards Vrindavan, his ecstasy multiplied hundreds and hundreds and times, 100,000 times. So they all attained Prema Bhakti. So it is not mentioned there that about their previous life. But
Okay.
definitely in the case of Bilva Mangal Thakur, Bilva Mangal Thakur, it is mentioned that in his previous life he was a sannyasi. He was very elevated and he had committed an aparad. And in this life, because of that aparad, he was attached to Chintamani, and he came up in touch with devotional service very quickly. That means, Chintamani preached to him that one preaching, one lecture, not even one lecture, one talk was sufficient for him to renounce sense gratification and take to a life of sadhu. And very quickly he went through these stages,
Yes.
and very quickly attained bhava, because already he had come to that stage in his previous life. Another important point for us to know is, in our previous life, suppose we have attained the stage of Nishta or Asakti or Ruchi. In previous life, if we have attained, in this life, it's not that directly we'll start with Ruchi. We will come in touch with devotees, and we will go through the stages of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti very quickly.
Okay.
And come to these higher stages. It's not that we will directly start from Ruchi. Just like sometimes students who are very brilliant, first, second, third standard, fourth standard, what takes 4 years, they might finish in 1 year or 1.5 years. There are
Yeah.
some exceptional students who finish their engineering in 14 years at the age of 14, whereas 18 to 22 we do in engineering. So if their level of consciousness and level of development or level of intellect is very high, then they can quickly go through even in studies like that. So similarly, one who has advanced in spiritual life in his previous life, he can go through these stages very quickly, even in this life, and come to those stages, and further he can make advancement. I hope it is
Okay.
clear, Surikund
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions we have? Any other clarifications? So it's almost only 1 minute to 1. We have only 1 minute, and I don't want to start the definition of sadhana bhakti, because that definition itself will take us at least few minutes, at least 20-30 minutes. So I will take that tomorrow itself, and then we will continue our discussion on sadhana bhakti tomorrow onwards. So today we will stop here only, and tomorrow we will continue same time, 12 to 1:30. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.